Hello Unreal Engine games developers. In this continuing desert driving game series, today we're going to figure out who are the winners and who are the losers in each game. Let's get to it. In this episode we're going to determine who are the winners and losers in the game, and the first thing we need to do is determine where we're going to put the logic to check if the game has been won. So if I go to my trusty network diagram showing all the different network objects, we've been using the player state to keep track of the score for each player, and we want to put in some logic on the server. If you remember, we're doing all of the trusted checks on the server. We need to check if a player has got to a winning score, and this needs to be done in one of these server objects. You could put it in the game state, but the game state's more about storing variables associated with the game, such as if you have teams, you'd store the player score in the player state, and then you'd store the team score in the game state, so it's available to all of the players to see the current score. The game mode is really responsible for storing the rules of the game and checking winning and losing conditions. So this is really where we ought to put the game winning check. So going back to our project, the game mode, we haven't used this before, but we actually have a game mode because when we set up this vehicle system right at the beginning of the series, we had a BP pickup game mode set up for us. So if you browse to there and open it up, you'll have to probably open the full blueprint editor if this is the first time you've done it. And there's nothing in here at the moment. It's there's just sort of a template for begin, play and tick. So let's get rid of those. And we'll create a new custom event to check for the winner. So go into custom event and let's call this check for winner. We don't need to make it run on the server because remember I just showed you the game mode object always runs on the server, so we don't need to set up anything in the replication. Now, how are we going to check the winner? What we need to do is we need to go through all of our player states and determine if anybody has got the winning score, and then we can inform that player that they're the winner. So how do we go through the player state? Well, we've done something similar to this before. We can get the game state, and if we drag off there, the game state, if we do get player, has an array of player states. And then we just want to loop through these until we find a player state that has the same score as the winning score that we've set in the game rules. So drag off here, do for each, and connect that to your check for winner event. And then from the array elements, as we're going through each of these player states, we'll need to cast it to our custom BP my player state. So attach that to the loop body as well. And then from the BP my player state, we can get the player score. And then the last thing we need to do is we need to check that against the winning score. So let's set up a variable in the game mode. We'll call it winning score, and it'll be an integer, just like the other scores. Compile and save, and now we can set the winning score in here. So let's just set it for 3 at the moment, just so we don't have to spend too long getting a winning score in our testing phases. And what we want to do now is compare each player score to the winning score and find if we've got somebody who's actually got to the target. So use Control to drag in the winning score, drag out from the player score, press the equals key, and do equal integer, and we'll compare it to the winning score. So if the player score equals the winning score, this will put out true. If it doesn't, it'll put out false. So the next thing we want to do is hit the B key for a branch, connect it to the flow, and if it's true, we're going to put out a winning string, or we're going to provoke the winning condition. So what I want to do is I want to actually inform the player controller who owns this player state, so that they can put out something on a widget. And you might think to yourself, well, that should be fairly straightforward. From the player state, we can get the player controller. So if you drag out from the player state and do get controller, there's actually no get player controller. I'm not quite sure why Unreal Engine haven't put this in, because it would be a frequent requirement. You can get AI controllers, instigator controllers. Anyway, there is a way of doing it. It's just not immediately obvious. If you do get owner, the owner of the player state is actually the player controller. It's just not transparent. So we can get the owner, and then we need to cast it to our custom player controller. So come out of here, cast to player controller, and we want BP my player controller. We can connect that to the true event if our player score has the winning condition. And now from the player controller we can call a function to put out the winning UI. So we'll need to create that first. So let's compile and save what we got so far. Go back to the project, go to your player folder, can find it, and open up the player controller, and we'll create a new event. New custom event, and we'll call this, oops, let's call this client show game results. That's going to run on the owning client. And we're going to do the usual check to see if I'm the local player controller. You remember there's a player controller on the server and the client. So let's do Control C, Control V. And if we're the local player controller, we're going to put out UI. But for now, let's just do a print string. And we'll put out winner. So that's our function on the player controller, or event I should say, on the player controller that puts out the winning string or winning UI. Compile and save that. Now go back to your game mode, and from the player controller call client show game result. And that should call the player controller and put out the winning condition. So let's just recap on this before we test it. We're checking for a winner by going through each player state, and if we find a player score that equals the winning score, we get the player controller and we call the show game result for that player, which will put out a winner condition. Now the only thing is, when do we check for the winner? I mean, you could check continuously, but that's going to be very inefficient. Probably the best event to put this check for winner, or to call this check for winner, is every time we add the score on the server, because you can only get to a winning condition when a score has changed. So with that in mind, let's go back to the project and open up the player state. And we have this add score event. So once we've added the score, let's call the game winning condition, or the check for game winner, at that point in time. We need to obviously have a reference to the game mode. Rather than get the game mode and cast it each time, let's just do it once when we initialize a score. So in this initialize score, let's do get game mode and cast to BP pickup game mode. And what we'll do is if you right click on this and say promote to variable, we'll store that as the BP pickup game mode for future reference. So that'll be done when we initialize the score, and then every time we add to the score, we'll use this BP pickup game mode and we'll check for winner. Okay, so final recap. When we start the game, the score gets initialized. We set the custom game mode variable. Every time we add an item to the score by going through a gate, we check for the winner. So go over to this check for winner function. It goes through all of the players. If it finds a player whose score equals the winning score, it casts to their player controller and calls the show game result, which on the local player controller prints the string winner. So that should work. Let's make sure everything is compiled. And let's go make sure we're doing 2 players. Let's just do it in a new editor window. Okay. So we have the server on the right, the client on the left. Let's find a gate. And we need to go through 3 gates to get the winning score. Okay, 1. Score goes up to 2. And the next time when we add score, it should check for a winner on the game mode. It should match the condition and it should then say winner. And you can see at the top of the screen it says client 1 winner. So we know that that check has passed. So that's a good first stab at the winning conditions. However, we also want to let losers know that they've lost as well as the winners. So how do we do that? Let's think about that with the logic we've already got in place. So every time we add a score, we're looping through the players to see if somebody's a winner. And if somebody's a winner, then I suppose we want to let the losers know they've lost as well. So I guess we could do another loop after this, once we've determined there's a winner, to find out all of the people who didn't have the winning score. But it's slightly inefficient to do that because we can determine the winner, or we can determine that there is a winner right at the start of this check by looking at the incoming score and seeing if it equals a winning score. And then we only have to go through that loop once. So in order to do that check right at the beginning, we want to have score as an input. So let's add a new input here, and we'll call it score to check. It's an integer. And anything that calls this check for winner will have to pass in the score. So if we go to the player state, and every time we add to a score, we'll pass that score in to the check for winner. So again, to recap, the reason why we're doing this is because if we add to the score and the score is 3, we're passing, or the winning score, we're passing that in so we can check it straight away, and then we know there's a winner, and then we can loop through once and put out winners and losers in one pass. Compile and save that. Go back to our game mode. And now, before we do the for each loop, let's do a check to see if there's a winner. So we'll take in our winning score. we'll drag out from the score to check and put an equals event or an equals condition and compare the score that was passed in to the winning score. And then, depending on that condition, let's branch, B for branch. If the score that we checked is a winning score, then we know that we have a winner. We don't know who the winner is yet, we just know we have a winner. So we don't need to do anything more if we haven't reached a winning score. Again, more efficient. So let's drag out here. Let's just tidy this up a bit. Okay, now what we can do is as we go through each player state, we know that there's a winner. So we'll definitely have a player where the player score equals the winning score. But if the player doesn't equal the winning score, then they're a loser. So we can show the game result as you lose. And in order to do that, let's just go to the game result first and make sure that it can put out loser as well as winner. So let's go back to the player controller, and in the game results here, let's put an input. It's going to be a Boolean is winner. So it's going to be true if it's a winner, false if it's a loser. And then from here, we can just do another branch. So we're taking the winner is winner, put it down there. If it's true, we're a winner. Let's duplicate that with Control W. It's false, we're a loser. And now we just have to pass this is winner flag into the player controller. So go back to the game mode, and this check here, player score equals winning score, is going to put out true if we're a winner and false. So we can pass this directly in to the client game show result. So actually we don't need this branch anymore. We're going to be putting out a show game result for every player, regardless of whether they're a winner or a loser. So let's take that out. Let's now connect the player state to the player controller directly, and then this player score winning score check we can pass into is winner. So as we go through each player state, if the player score equals a winning score, it'll show the game result and pass in true. If the player score isn't equal to the winning score, it'll still show a game result, but it'll show the is winner as false. So it should come out as loser. So let's compile and save that, and let's test it out again, see if we get our loser. So I'm in as the client, so I need to go through 3 gates again to get to the winning condition. Through the second, and when I go through the 3rd gate, we get client 1 winner and server loser at the top. So that logic seems to have worked nicely. So from a debug point of view, we know we're doing the right checks. However, we really need now to put out a widget on the screen for the winner and loser to show the game ending condition. So let's go to our player controller, and we're going to replace these print strings, winner and loser, with a UI that shows you win or you lose. So let's get rid of the print strings and go back to the project, go to our UI section, and we'll create a new widget. So user interface widget blueprint, and we'll call it W game result. open it up. And this is going to be a pretty simple text box for now. So we'll say you win. Let's put it in the middle of the screen. And you can, if you want to, you can press Control or Shift when you select these alignments, and it will make sure that they're aligned and positioned properly, so you don't have to go and change the position X and Y to 0 manually. And let's make this quite a bit bigger. Let's make this 120. And because I'm a winner, let's make the colour green. So I'll just make it 0 red, 1 green, 0 blue. Okay, that looks good. And we also want a text output for the loser as well. So let's copy this text thing with Control C, Control V, and for the other text we'll put "you lose," and we'll change that to red. So 1 0 0. And you may be thinking at the moment, well, hang on a second, you've got you win and you lose on here. I'm going to use a useful feature called a widget switcher. So if I right click here and say wrap with widget switcher, and then actually we'll drag the you lose in there as well. Let's put the you lose first. I'll tell you why in a minute. And the widget switcher is what we're going to use to control whether we display you lose or you win. So let's call this win switch, and it's a variable. Compile and save. And the widget switcher has this thing called an active widget index. So if the index is 0, it displays the first widget, which is you lose. If it's 1, it displays the second widget, which is you win. So we can use our isWinner variable from the player controller to determine which of these is shown on the screen. So let's save that. And what we need to do now is go to the player controller, and we're going to create that widget. In fact, we don't need this check anymore for isWinner true or false, because we're going to be passing that isWinner into the widget, whether you're a winner or a loser. So let's get rid of this branch. And now, if it's a local player controller, we'll create a widget. This widget is game result. And then we need to then drag off the return value, add to viewport. So that will show it on the screen. And we want to pass this isWinner into the game result widget to drive our widget switcher, but we haven't got an input on here, so we need to do that. Set this up first. So go back to the game result, go to the graph. Let's get rid of the everything except the construct, and add a variable here called isWinner. It's a Boolean, and we want to make it instance editable expose on spawn. And now when we construct this widget from the create widget, if you control and drag in the isWinner, we're going to use this to drive the widget switcher. So that's that win switch. So control and drag that in as well. And there's an action from the window switcher, widget switcher rather, where you can set the active index, set active widget index. So you remember we wanted to set it as, take off the construct, you want to set it as 0 for you lose and 1 for you win. Well, you can actually drag a Boolean directly into an integer. It'll do a conversion, so false will be 0 and true will be 1, which is exactly what we want. So now it will show the you win for you lose rather for 0 if not a winner, and if you are a winner it'll set you win. So let's compile and save that and go back to the player controller, and now our isWinner variable, actually we need to just refresh this. Go to File, refresh all nodes. So now that game result widget has an isWinner input. We can connect that. So now it will show you win or you lose depending on the isWinner variable and add it to the viewport. Let's compile and save that and let's test it out. Okay, I'm in the client. Let's find the gate. It's there in the distance. First gate. Second gate, and now the final gate to win the game. We go through and you can see that we have you win on the client and you lose on the server. And I could test this out for multiple clients as well, but I'm pretty confident that that will work. So I'll let you do that in your own time. Now, there's one thing you might have noticed. I still have gates being spawned. And when you win a game in the game mode, we really want to stop any more game activities taking place. So at the moment, I can still go through gates and score, which doesn't really make any sense. So I want to stop the gate spawning when we reach the winning condition. And let's look at where the gates are being spawned at the moment and then think about where we need to put that. If we go back to the project and go to the gates folder, our gate spawner has a function here to spawn the gate, and the gate itself is what is calling that spawn gate when we add the score. So we could, I suppose, in the game mode put a Boolean to say is game over, and then we could check here, is the game over and not spawn the gate. But probably a better way of doing it is to spawn the gate in the winning check, so that we only spawn it when there isn't a winner. So let's disconnect this. So I'm using Alt to disconnect these, and I'm going to take these two. Yeah, in fact, let me just delete them. And then move our destroy actor on here. So we still want to destroy the gate after we've gone through it and added the score. But if we go to the game mode, what I want to do is, when I'm checking for a winner, if there isn't a winning score, then I'll spawn another gate. But as soon as we've reached the winning score, I won't spawn the gate. So from this false branch check here, if we haven't got a winning score, that's where I want to call the spawn gate. And in order to call that, I need to find out where the gate spawner is in the level. So let's do that in a begin play. I don't want to have to check it every time I check for the winner. That's not very efficient. So put in a begin play event, and let's get actor of class, and the class we're searching for is the gate spawner. And we'll promote that to a variable which we'll call gate spawner. So at the start of the game, we're finding the gate spawner and storing it in a variable, so we can call that spawn gate event if there isn't a winner. So every time we add to the score, we're checking for the winner, and only if it's true are we going through and putting out you win or you lose. If it's false, we now can spawn our gate. So let's drag in our gate spawner, drag from out there and call server spawn gate, and then connect this to the false check for a winner, and compile and save. So now we're still having our gate spawned each time we go through a gate and add to the score, but as soon as we reach the winning condition, we're not spawning the gate and going on and putting out you win and you lose. So let's test that out. Let's do it as the server this time, just to do something different. So I'll go onto the server and let's go through the first gate. Good news is that the new server spawn gate still worked, but it's now running from that game check if there isn't a winning condition. And we'll go through the second gate, and there's the third gate spawned. Go through there, and that should put out the winning and losing. Now, if I look for a gate to go through, there isn't one, because as soon as we reach the condition, the winning condition, we branched away from the server spawn gate, so I can't add to any more score. So that's exactly what I wanted. And let's do one final thing in this episode. Let's restart the game after a few seconds after winning or losing. I'm going to do this in a sort of quick and dirty way. I'm going to do a future episode where I show you how to restart the level in a bit more of a sophisticated fashion, but I want to do something quick and easy for you so you can carry on and do the next game. So let's come out of here, and what I want to do is I want to wait. Once we know that we have a winner, I want to wait 4 seconds and then restart the game again. So the quick way of doing that is at the end of our game check, we know at this point we have found a winner and we've gone through and we're showing all the game results. So let's just, at the end of this, put in a delay of 4 seconds, and then there's a nice simple action we can call on the game mode, restart game, and that will just reload that level, and we can start again as if we loaded the level for the first time, and compile and save that. Now, the only caveat with this restart game is it doesn't work very well in the editor mode. It works fine in the standalone game mode and the final build. So let's test it out in the standalone game mode. So let's go to the play mode, 2 players. Let's choose standalone game. So now it's running these 2 client and servers in separate processes. And let's find the gate. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing again. Go through the 3 gates. So first gate, luckily the next one spawned very close by. Second gate, and there's the third one directly ahead. So once I go through that, I'm the winner and the other player is the loser, and after 4 seconds it will reload the level and we're back at the start again, and the scores are reset to 0 because it's as if I've started the level from scratch again. So it's a quick way of restarting the level. However, as I said, I'll show you in a future episode how to reset the conditions so you don't have to reload the level from scratch again. So that's all for today. Hope you followed along easily, and in the next episode we will put in some sounds. We'll put in some engine sounds and some other ambient sounds as well. And we're almost wrapped up this series then. I think we'll just finish off with the restarting the level and then putting a quick and easy sort of multiplayer joining front end on it so that you can host it between players when you build the game. And I think that'll be it. There might be some future episodes here where we add features or tweak features, but that'll be the core of this series. So I look forward to seeing you on the next one, and stay safe and bye for now.